All right. Hello, 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 hello. How is everybody doing? Okay, y'all, seriously, we're going to get into it today. We're talking about how to find work life harmony. Hmm, I absolutely love the word harmony. And I think that it is beautiful and it's something for us all to strive towards. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today on the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. I'm excited. We're going to dig in right after this. All right. So, listen. The reason why this subject, work life harmony, is so important because y'all, we are going through. I've read so many headlines and so many headlines of people. Hi, Boca. Nice to meet you. Nice to actually see you on the show today. So thanks for joining me. But I've read so many headlines, especially lately, about just how we are as a society is just super unbalanced, how we are not taking care of ourselves. I mean, I've had so many, losses in life lately. And I just think it's because we just don't understand what I call work life harmony. And so we're going to get into it. First of all, there's a term that goes around that a lot of people talk about in this work life balance. And I know what they're trying to get at. Work life balance is, trying to figure out like the balance between work life and everything like that. But the word balance, right? Sometimes I have an issue with the word balance because balance inherently means that we strive to make everything equal in our lives, right? And that's nearly impossible to do. And I think when we talk about balance, it can bring up issues of anxiety and stress when we're constantly trying to balance things out. We're trying to give the this amount of time to our kids and this amount of time to our spouses and this amount of time to our work and this amount of time to church and God. And we think that those things are supposed to be equal, and if they're not equal, then something is wrong with us, and I think that is ludicrous. Imperfect harmony, imperfect balance, right? We equally given those things that we love and that we appreciate in our lives the same amount of time. So I think striving towards harmony is a much, much better way to state it. And it's a much better process of being, right? So, what do I mean about when I say work life harmony? Well, it's really a concept that allows us to blend our work and our personal life together so that they both support our goals, right? It's the blending of the two so that they both support our goals. Hey, Jonathan, thanks so much for joining today. And so that blending of the two, right? Work and life is can be a beautiful thing, right? It's the mindset that my work and my life can both come together to make who I am, which it does, right? My work and my life can both come together and they can both support me. My personal life and my work can both support me at the same time so that I can reach all the goals in life that I want to. Hey, Dr. Gail, thanks for joining today. Um, and I love that, right? Because here's the thing, most of us are ambitious and we're going to continue to be ambitious. And even if you're not ambitious, right, you still have some goals that you want to get to in your life, right? Some of us are more ambitious than others, and that's okay, right? Some goals are bigger than others, and that's okay too. But at the end of the day, we all have something that we're striving towards, right? Whether it is more time with our families and kids, or a promotion at work, or whatever. We're all really striving towards those things in our lives. And so, why not blend those things together in a way that works and supports you versus a way that contradicts and pulls you away from the things that you truly love, which I think that's what trying to strive for equilibrium and balance does in our lives. And so I had this question posed to me. So I was at my son's school, Trey, and me and one of his friends' moms, and we were talking, and she was like, "I seen you posted something like this on LinkedIn or Instagram," and I was like, "I need to talk to her because I really need to find balance in my life, and I mean, I really need you to help me try to figure out what that is because I'm always on." She was like, "I'm always on." I'm always on my phone. I'm always working. I'm always, trying to figure out the next thing that I need to do. I'm always on. And I don't want to always be on. So she was like, "So, what are the things that I can do to not always be on?" And I was like, "Oh, girl, yes, we're going to get into it because I think that I've felt that same way a lot of the times. And what's interesting is that when I'm always on, a lot of times what that then begins to cause is burnout. When you're always on and you never have time to catch up or to catch your breath, then it is very hard to live life in a state. I call that living life in a state of chaos, right? And a lot of times you can figure that out and you can look at that from a way a person's desk might look or the way their office is set up or not set up, those kinds of things. Like a lot of times our life mimics the way that we feel inside. And I know for myself, if my desk is messy or if my office is messy, pretty much that's the way my life feels. I feel pretty chaotic at that time. And living life in a state of chaos is not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody. So I want to talk about how do you get there? First of all, how do you get to living a life that is super, super unbalanced, that is not manageable, right? That's not manageable. Well, one of the ways you get there is you say yes to the things that you should be saying no to. I understand it. Listen, a lot of times when it comes to saying yes, it's a lot of times it's easier to say yes than it is to say no. And I know that's why a lot of people say yes. But in the long run, it is harder to say yes than it is to say no because what yes then puts on your plate is something that you didn't have to deliver. And if you can't deliver what yes puts on your plate, then that then causes stress. And then that can ultimately lead to burnout. And so I know myself, I'll say yes to a lot of things, right? I have been used to saying yes to so many things. And then I had to really start stopping myself, right? I had to stop myself from saying yes to so many things, especially without thinking, right? You should never say yes to something that you don't then give some time to think about it. You need to pause. Take a pause. Right? Right? I remember I used to say yes all the time. And I'd be like, "Oh, sure, I can do that. Oh, absolutely, for sure." I mean, it was just so automatic, right? And then when I started pausing and saying, "Well, let me get back to you. Let me think about it." I started taking my power back for one. And then I started thinking about it. I can't do that. Where am I going to put that at in my schedule? I do not have time to take on one more thing. But here's the thing, people will give you as much as you'll take. Period. I'm going to say it again. People will hand you things. And as long as you accept the things that people hand you, then they're going to give it to you. It is up to you to stop that and to then say no. So I learned how to put a pause on yes because I needed time to think about if I really could do it or not. And let me just say this to you. Some of the times I really, really, really wanted to do the thing. I really did. I mean, I am a shiny objects person. I'm getting better. But listen, I'll see that thing over there. It's a shiny object, and I want to do that. Right. So I understand it. But when I put a pause on yes, it changed my life. I was able to then think about it and then show up how I needed to show up in a situation and not overload myself. How else do we get there? We get there by not relinquishing control, right? I'm just going to say it. A lot of times it's ego. We have to be in control. And listen, some of these things I'm talking about, well, let me just say it. All of these things, real talk, that I'm talking about have been things that I either have gone through or go through, right? So when it comes to control, right, we want to be in control. And therefore, when we want to be in control, then a lot of times you got to do stuff yourself. If you want it done right, they say do it yourself, right? No. If you want it done, let somebody who's skilled do it. Because chances are them people can do it better than you. My assistant Nicole does so many things better than me. I don't want to walk in her shoes. I need to walk in the shoes that I am in right now. And so I had to learn how to relinquish control. That even happens in our household, right? With my husband, right? My husband cooks spaghetti different than I cook spaghetti, right? I'm a Southern Belle. I like sugar in my spaghetti. Don't judge me. I know some of you out there like sugar in your spaghetti too. But my husband don't like sugar in his spaghetti. So when he cooks spaghetti, he don't put sugar in his spaghetti. And so for me, right, if I have to think about it, if I want him to cook and it's spaghetti night. And a lot of times, guess what? I let him cook it because I got to relinquish control over that thing. And if I want sugar, just put sugar in my own spaghetti sauce, right? But we have to relinquish that control because that control keeps us confined and it keeps things on our list. The minute that I relinquish control and I give it to somebody else, it comes off of my list. And what I'm trying to do is find harmony in my life. And so that means I need things to come off of my list and go on somebody else's list. Hopefully they practice in harmony too, but listen, I'm trying to get you to worry about you so that you can be okay. And the other thing that causes us not to have that real true harmony in our life is perfectionism. Listen, I know some people out there who absolutely will not move if the thing ain't perfect. And I'll tell you this, I like things to be right as well, right? I do. I love things to be in decency and in order, but I've learned that it don't have to be perfect. But some of us feels like it has to be perfect in order for us to move. And that is hindering us from finding the work-life balance that we need to have. When you can just move forward, understanding that it is good enough, this thing is good enough, right? It does not have to be your life's work writing on this one document. Like it can be good enough, and then you can make it through. That is a beautiful place to absolutely be. It's a beautiful place to absolutely be. So, those are the things that you might want to look out for when it comes to things that may be draining and sucking your harmony out of your life, your work life harmony. But I want to like dip into now some of the things that you can do to have more work life harmony. So, I'll say this. Last night was beautiful. I actually went to an event called a Sisters Siesta. And it was just such a beautiful event. Hosted, it was so beautiful because it was Black women getting together and really pouring into each other and really figuring out what we need in order to manage our self-care in the world in which we live. Uh, I'm fortunate enough to have a Black experience, to have a lived experience as a Black woman. And then I say fortunate because I really truly believe that, right? But with that fortunateness comes a lot of responsibility, comes a lot of heaviness and a lot of weight on myself and other Black women to always be on, number one, right? To always be perfect, right? We have to be striving for more and better just to be on an equal playing field with others, right? We have the message that we always have to be strong and courageous and all of these things. And that's just baseline, right? And then we deal with all these other things while being Black in America, like microaggressions and racisms, and the fact that we earn 62 cents on the dollar for every white woman who earns like 72 cents, and for every man who earns like 85 cents, right? So it's crazy, it's bananas. And so I think that we all need a space to just be and to be able to show up and to be ourselves. And last night was that, and it reconfirmed some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today when it comes to having work-life balance, because the lines are blurred, y'all. The lines between work and your personal life are absolutely blurred. I mean, I'm sitting in my home office right now. This is my beautiful home office. And yes, I've made it beautiful and I made it a space for me to want to come to work every single day. But that don't matter when my kids are in the other room trying to watch TV, or when my dog Abby was just trying to get into the office because I shut her out when I'm doing a show. So we are still, in these spaces, and yes, some of us are back in the office, and we work back from the office, and that still can still bring those blurred lines, because we still are the same people who go to work. We come home and then we go back to work, right? So we take ourselves to work and we bring ourselves home. And so the lines are absolutely blurred. And because of that, right, even more so than ever right now, the lines are blurred, especially because of the pandemic. How do we actually get this harmony in life, right? How do we get this harmony in life? And let me just be honest with you, it's not always easy. It's not gonna always be easy. I got a text from a friend who was also one of my students, and she's in the process of finishing her PhD, and she's a mom, so she has mom duties. She also has a business that she's running, and she was like, "You are literally the only person that I know who's done exactly what I'm doing, which is go to school full time to get a PhD, take care of your kids, and at the same time run a successful business." That's what I did. I had two, and I was pregnant while I was in school. So I not only had a 1 year old while I was getting my PhD, I got pregnant with my third child while in the program. I was running my one business that I've had for now 14 years. I stood up another business while I was in grad school, and I had my wifely duties as a wife that, because I still like my husband, that I was dealing with that. Bananas, bananas. So, how did I manage through that? And she called me, and I know she's watching today as well. Hey, Joyce. And I'm just excited to actually have this conversation. Hey, Dr. Johnny Parker, thank you so much for joining the Kiki Ramsey Show today. And so here's what I'm going to say to everybody who's listening about work-life harmony. The first, and I feel like the foundational thing, is that we have to be intentional about our life, period. You have to be intentional, and you have to practice intentionality in your life, right? I am intentional about the things we do, right? I was just listening to somebody last night, and they said that they are not intentional. They just really go with the flow when as it pertains to their lives. They just go with the flow. And I can understand that when you're trying to get stuff done, like you wake up, you do the same thing, you just go with flow, and you don't think about what you're doing. You're just actually doing because you feel like you have so many things to do. You have to stop, and you have to be intentional about the way you want to live your life. Because let me just tell you, if you're not, other people will guide you. Other people will guide the way that you want to show up in life and the way that you actually live your life. Yes, we all have to work. I say nobody has to do anything. We all work because we want a paycheck, right? We want the funds that we need to support our lifestyle. So we all work. We all have these social relationships that are important to us. you have to be intentional about those things, and you have to set that intention. So I even wake up on a daily basis and I set my intention for even the day. But when I'm talking about intentionality, I'm talking about this as a way of a lifestyle, right? The way that you live your life with intention. I know for a fact that what's important to me is God, my family, and work. Right. And so, and I'll say, when I say my family, I mean even my closest friends and relationships, right? That's important to me. So these are my pillars. And so when I'm talking about intentionality, you need to set pillars or anchors in your life that are important to you. And if things fall outside of those anchors, then I mean, maybe those things don't get done. Right. So when I'm thinking about the things that I'm going to be intentional about, it's going to be spending time with the Lord. Right. And I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning time and I spend time with God. I pray, read my Bible, and do all those beautiful things so that my day can actually be better. Right. So that's intentional. I go to church on Sundays with my family. I mean, all those things. I volunteer at church, and so those things are important to me, and I'm very intentional about that in my life. My family, when it comes to my kids and my husband, they're my people, right? And so I'm going to find the time that I need to spend with those people. When it comes to my closest friends, I know I need that for myself. And so I'm going to find the time to do that and spend the time with that. And then the work that I do is it's important, right? I love this. I absolutely love my work and I wouldn't give it up for anything, right? Like, so for me, when it comes to work, I still have to find that harmony within my work so that I don't overload myself. But that's what I mean about being intentional. I only take on projects that I want to take on. I don't take on anything that I don't want to. I'm really intentional about those things because if I'm going to take on something, then I'm going to give it my very best. I'm going to give it my all. And I think that that's what we have to show up to life with, is that intentionality and really figuring out what those anchors are for you. Another word for those anchors are values. What are your values in life? I show up from a place of value and I actually honor my values every single day. I have to, because otherwise I'm going to be out of whack. So that's number one. You have to be intentional and practice intentionality. Number two, you have to prioritize time. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. This one is not always easy, and I think this is the one that trips most of us up when we're thinking about trying to find harmony in our lives between our personal lives and our work. We think that we have the ability to give everything equal amount of time. And first of all, that's not true, right? But we also feel bad about not giving certain time to certain things. Here's what I want to offer up to you. When it comes to harmony, that ebbs and flows. And so you will have to find time to support the things that are important to you at the moment. And that doesn't mean that this is what it's going to be all the time. This is why I love striving towards harmony, because it changes. It changes with time. I mean, it could change with the day. So let me give you an example. When I was getting my PhD, the time that I had, the time that I spent with my children was uh, less than the time that I spent on writing my dissertation. And in the beginning of that process, it made me so sad because I had this expectation of balance in my life that was super unrealistic, right? I was like, well, if I'm gonna spend this much time doing my dissertation, I have to spend this much time with my kids. No, you don't. Like, listen, that I love my kids to death. Do not get me wrong. But where did we get that concept from? If I do this for something else, I must do it for the other thing. No, you don't. Right? Where did we get this concept of fair and not fair? Like, my kids are in that whole phase right now. They're like, that's not fair. And we need to get equal. And I'm like, no, you need to get what you need. right? And that's really called equity. Hello, somebody, but we ain't gonna even go down there because we could go down that whole route today, right? It's called equity and not equality. But okay, I'm gonna stop right there. But here's the thing: when I was in that process, I started feeling really bad. I started having a lot of mom guilt because I wasn't spending a lot of time with my children, as much time as I wanted to with my kids, because I had this other really major goal that was going to help me in the work category of my life. So I had to reframe. I learned this while I was getting my PhD. I had to reframe what this was going to look like for me. And I had to reframe it towards harmony and not balance. And so I said, you know what? I may not spend as much time with my kids as I could if I were not doing a PhD and writing a dissertation, but I am, and I'm committed to finishing this process because this process, this dissertation, this PhD is going to help me grow the business. So, therefore, what do I need to do? I need to set out some time that is going to be quality and not necessarily quantity, right? But quality time that I am going to spend with my kids that will make them feel satisfied, that will make me feel satisfied. And then I'm going to still spend the time that I need to spend writing this daggone dissertation so I can freaking get done. And that was the absolute game changer for me. It was a game changer. So what I would do is on the weekends, because that's when I would do the majority of my writing, I would set aside an activity that I may do with the kids. And once that activity was done, I'm out. Meaning I spent so much time at WeWork, shout out to WeWork, but I spent so much time at WeWork writing this dissertation because it was so important to me. And I needed to be away from the house for the most part, but that's how I did it. So I would dedicate this and I would prioritize the time that I was going to spend with them. It was always quality, hugs, kisses, snuggles, all that kind of stuff. And then I would go do what I needed to do. That's what you have to do in your everyday life, right? You're always going to have 1,000 things to do. This is why I always talk about finding joy and happiness in the unbalanced life, because the unbalance is what life is. It's always a lot of things to do. At any given point, I got 1,000 things on my list, and I'm not exaggerating, right? 1,000. But I know I ain't going to get 1,000 things done, right? So what I do is I plot out the things that are important to me that I'm going to get done that day. And those are the things I get done that day. And I don't try to fake myself out anymore, thinking that I'm going to get more done than I can. I used to do that all the time. I'd be like, you know what? These 6 things, I'm going to get them done. Any one small derailment, an email can come through that derails my whole day. And guess what? They ain't got done. I mean, like, that's just how life works, right? And so I will wake up and even prioritize in the morning time. I have a stand-up call with my assistant every single morning, and then we have my list, and then we'll highlight really the 3 things that I'm committed to get done today. There's other things on the list, right? But the 3 things that I am committed to get done goes highlighted in yellow, and then I'll highlight them in green when I get them done. And it works beautifully. So that's number 2. And then number 3, you have to prioritize self. I know I'll say this, and so you've heard it probably before, that self-care is not selfish, but I mean, I just think that the statement is so true. But we don't do it a lot. And I think that we need to realize that self-care is actually different for everybody. It's different for everybody, and that's okay. I mean, that's the way the world works, right? It's different for everybody. So for me, what self-care looks like for me may not be self-care what it looks like for you, but at the end of the day, you need it and I need it too. In order to find harmony in your life, you need to practice this self-care. And I will say that one thing in anybody's self-care regimen that they always will need is time to self, meaning time to just sit and just be and just be. No lie. Like, I mean, like the time that you have to yourself so that you can just be. Like I experience that time as a time that I am the most creative in my life, right? When I am able to sit and when I'm able to just kind of just think, I'm more creative, I'm more productive, I'm more just more of who I know I want to be. To have time to sit and read a book, to have time to sit and just think about all the possibilities of your life. It is amazing to do. So that time I think is super important. I spend that time in the morning because that's the time that I've carved out for me. Another form of self care that I love that I practice is working out. And this might not be for everybody, and I get it, right? I do think that we all need to find ways to be more healthy physically, right? And working out is just one of them for me. And I'm also trying to eat better. But we all have places that we struggle, that we on a little struggle bus, right? But at the end of the day, working out is that thing that gives me number one, confidence in my ability to just accomplish something because I work out in the morning time, so I'm accomplished something, and it's just a beautiful thing. But whatever that is, some people say that going to the spa is self care. I know some guys like basketball. My husband likes to go to Muay Thai, right? For him, that's self care. My husband also likes to play video games. I was downstairs with him last night, and he was playing video games, and I'm like, you know what? This is so good that you can do this, right? Because I'm just not interested in video games, but he is. And it's a form of self care for him when he gets a chance to actually play video games, right? And so I think that we all need to figure out that form of self care for us and actually practice it. We actually have to put it into our routine on a regular basis, preferably daily basis. But if you can't, it needs to be on a regular basis because how are you supposed to ever recharge? Because life is going to take, right? There's going to be, things that are that life requires of us, and rightfully so, we're all alive. But how do you recharge that as well and get to a place where everything that you're doing, including work and your personal life, works in harmony? It's by prioritizing self care. So I hope that these things, helped you be intentional, live intentional, right? Practice intentionality, prioritize your time, and also prioritize yourself. If you do those things, they will work in harmony so that when you are trying to even go for a promotion or really get ahead at your job, they all should work together. They all should knit together like a beautiful, or, it doesn't even have to knit together like a beautiful basket. It can be anything that you want it to be, but it'll be yours and it'll work together. So, I'm excited, y'all. This stuff gets me pumped up to have these conversations. Thank y'all if you joined me live today for the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show. It has been exciting just to see our community grow. If you are live and you want to check out any of the other episodes of the Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show, we have so many amazing shows. You can actually go to any of your regular podcasting channels. We are on all of those, Apple Podcasts, and all of that. So go ahead and check out some more shows. And if you are a woman who is a professional career woman who wants a supportive community to rally around you, and you want to learn tools to continue to grow and be happy and resilient in your work and your life and find harmony, then I invite you to join the Happy Women Lead community. And you can join that at happywomenlead.com. All right, y'all. I look forward to seeing y'all on social media. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, on all of those. I love to continue this conversation with you. All right. Until next time. Peace.